These students learn a new dance step by step. They prepare for exams the same way. Here's the step-by-step plan for studying your notes. Step 1, refine your class notes.
The first thing I do when I start studying is I go back to the first page of lecture notes and I paraphrase a lot of the things. So I go back and I find, okay, here's some details, here's some main points. I rewrite everything so that it's perfect on my sheets and I have those as my outlines.
Major exams are usually based on points covered in class and information in the assigned readings. So in Step 2, review the annotated notes from the readings. Look at the questions and comments you wrote in the margins of the textbook. Study the paraphrased notes you made in a separate notebook. Step 3, review the text one more time. Note any material that the professor also covered in class. If that information is not already in your book notes, add it now.
If it comes up in the reading and the professor talks about it, you probably need to know it.
There's a clue.
There's a clue.
Step 4, combine all of your notes into a new document. That's what Anna McLeod recommends. She's the director of the Academic Success Centers at the University of South Carolina.
Taking what you learned in the lecture and then in the reading and pulling that all into a separate document is probably the best thing.
For example, take your lecture notes and book notes and combine them point by point. Look for patterns. Does the same word keep showing up? Bold it. When the same point shows up in both your lecture and book notes, italicize it or use a different color font. If you're doing all this by hand, run a highlighter over the key points made in both lecture and the text. So what do you do with all these notes? Here's the 3-circle strategy taught at Indiana-Purdue University at Fort Wayne. Each circle represents a source of information.
Where they overlap, we call that the most powerful information. If it was covered in lecture, if it was covered in the textbook, and it was covered in something else like a handout or a PowerPoint or a guest speaker, if it's covered in all three, that's where you start studying for the test. That's the most important. If it's covered in 2 areas, like the textbook and the lecture, that's the second level. And then if it's just covered in the textbook and nowhere else, or if it's just covered in the lecture and nowhere else, that's the 3rd level. So we're trying to show students that there is a level of importance based on all of that. And so that's where they can at least begin to study for a test.
Here are learning points to remember. Refine your class notes. Review annotated notes from the reading. Review the text one more time. Combine all your notes into a new document. And use the 3-circle strategy as a blueprint for where to focus your studying.